Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, taxes are the largest expense in retirement. Part 1 in our series on tax-favored retirement strategies with retirement consultant Jamie Hibbard. Welcome to the show, Jamie.
Thank you very much for having me.
Jamie, I read this report from Fidelity. They kept telling me, long-term care costs in retirement are the largest costs, but I did the numbers. Taxes still rules the #1 expense load to a retiree.
It's taxes. It's coming down the line whether you like it or not, and most retirees aren't aware that that's their biggest expense, plain and simple. When it comes
I saw
to
a gentleman the other day had a 401k that had $1 million in his 401k, and I said, you don't own all $1 million.
You don't. You're in a partnership.
And I found out that it could be, when you get state and federal together, you could be losing, even the normal American could be losing 25 to 30%. That's the normal guy, not to mention affluent America.
Yeah, that's correct.
Now, I want to talk about some of this because this is a shocker to most of my listeners. All qualified plans are taxable.
That's correct.
Now, I know that we say this and we say, we say it, but people are always like, have you found people that they just don't understand that when they get this money out of their retirement, whether it's 401k, IRA, whatever, it's all going to be taxed.
It is. That's correct. It's you're in a partnership with the government, whether you know it or not, when it comes to your qualified plan money. That partnership is very one-sided. This partner can decide to take more money or less money depending on what they need, and it's growing along with your assets. And so, unless you take the steps to address it, then you're faced with a potentially large problem.
And there are steps to address it. There's solutions out there.
Correct.
Okay. Now, I also wanted to bring up a couple things here. Most consumers, most retirees do not understand that all their qualified plans are taxable, which we just said, but it's includable in their Social Security provisional income test. Talk about that.
Yeah, that's correct. There's a few items that get included in provisional income. Provisional income is the test that the IRS looks at to determine what portion of your Social Security payments are going to be taxable. Your 1099s, your rental income, your current wages, half of your Social Security income, it all gets added up. And if it's over a certain threshold, and wherever it lines up in these thresholds that the IRS has set up determines how much of your actual Social Security can be taxed. And that's up to 85% if you meet the right thresholds.
I think most consumers don't know that, Jamie.
That's correct.
Jamie, you're a millennial. You've been in the business already over a decade, isn't that correct?
Yeah, 12 years.
So you've been in, I'm pretty much out of college.
Yeah,
practically.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay, so do you think your generation is different from my generation? I'm a baby boomer. How do you see retirement differently than I would see it?
I think we do. The traditional rules that you buy your house, you pay off your mortgage, you save in your 401k plans, you put as much as you can in your IRA. By the time you're retired, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. A lot of those rules aren't taken at face value anymore. And I think a lot of people in my generation, because we have just tons of information that we can find anywhere we look. And we're kind of starting to turn some of those ideas on their head and try to see if there are better ways to do it, in my opinion.
And are there better ways to do it?
I think there are.
If you could stand in front of your millennial generation today and say, we need to depart from the traditional baby boomer parent, the way our parents retired, we need to take is it a small approach adjustment, or is it no, this could be a major course adjustment?
Yeah, I agree. I think you really have to turn things on your head. When you think about saving for retirement, there's 3 buckets that you can save in. First is your taxable bucket, things like your mutual funds, CDs, stocks, bonds, all that we're very familiar with. This bucket gets taxed. You pay with after-tax money. It grows, and as it grows, it gets taxed. And as you decumulate and start taking your money, you have to pay capital gains, and you pay taxes there as well. The second bucket is your tax-deferred money, your 401ks, your IRAs, where, you're putting in after-tax money, it grows tax-deferred, but eventually you're going to have to pay taxes on all that money. It's the third bucket that I think most millennials and pretty much anyone should be really looking at socking away the most of their savings in, which is the tax-free bucket.
Okay, now when I'm thinking of tax-free, we're going to get into a little bit of that in the second segment. When I'm thinking about these 3 different channels or these 3 different buckets that you say, does it matter how I take that? Let's say I have money that's in taxable, I have money that's in deferred, I have money that's tax-free. Does it matter how I take it out as well during the retirement?
And something we say a lot around the office is it's how you time, combine, and sequence these assets. Because it really can. People always think, what's the best return I can get? That's going to have the most effect on what and how comfortably I can retire. But unless you time these different buckets right, where you're accessing your money, there's just going to be money disappearing in taxes that most people aren't aware of.
I noticed in the book that you're in this book here called The Red Zone, which you can get out on Jamie's site, that you talk about this red zone, this danger zone. There's kind of an idea of 5 years before the date and 10 years after. It's dangerous to be out there, and you're now talking about timing, combining, sequencing. There's an art form here to distributions. That's what I'm hearing you say.
That's correct.
And you could get a lot more money out if you knew the timing and combining of these different buckets.
Correct.
So when I'm looking at this, I'm trying to be the boomer. I think they're going to move the timeline up for you guys. I think you're going to be, your new retirement's not going to be 65. I think it's going to be 70. I think early touching Social Security could be 68, the early time, instead of 62.
Yeah.
So when I look at this, right now, you deal, as a millennial, you're dealing with boomers that are already facing all the issues that I'm facing now. I noticed that there's compulsory qualified plan. You have to take required minimum distributions whether you want to or not. Right. How do you deal with boomers that just are waking up to this for the first time in their life?
Well, it's kind of a rude awakening. Most of our clients, they've done a great job saving, and then when it's time to take these RMDs, when they've reached 70 and a half, they're starting to think, I don't actually want this money, but they have to take it. They have to decumulate their plans at some point, and that's the IRS saying, now's our time to get our taxes and get what's due.
Now, I say this on the air every time we talk about this because we still get picked up by so many consumers. If you don't pay the required minimum distribution, am I correct, 50% penalty on the difference of what you did pay and what you should have paid. 50%.
Very heavy penalty.
Well, I mean, how can we not know this? That's a big law not to know.
It is, yeah. It is. It's a lack of information, and it's getting with the right advisors and talking with the right people, and planning and timing and combining and sequencing, as I said, how to access this money.
So is that one of your big front topics on when you're talking about distribution?
Absolutely.
Okay, so, and by the way, a little side note, you could repair a bad RMD scenario if you're within the first year. There's still ability through the code that you could actually fix this if you made a mistake the first year. After that, I don't know, but you still could repair it. I noticed another thing too. The IRS 4 years ago put on this thing called Qualified Longevity Annuity Contract. You could actually push forward up to 125,000, well, 25%, but the cap is 125,000. You could forward that all the way to age 85.
Yeah, it's a great strategy.
Well, I'm mind-blowing because if I'm actually moving money out into the future, that means my Social Security may not go up to Tier 1 or Tier 2, just because of that idea. So when I'm looking at taxes in retirement, how much time do you and your firm spend on tax management to keep I want more money in my pocket?
That's all we do.
That's all you do.
It's the esoteric and these niche ideas that are out there that a lot of advisors aren't familiar with. Some are, a lot aren't, but it's how to save taxes, how to put more money in your pocket and pay less to the IRS and Uncle Sam. Okay, so let's say a person says, Steve, I don't want to risk any more in the market. I can't get my rate of return there. I could maybe get 10, 15%, maybe more a month if I just let somebody like yourself manage my taxes. Right. Make up those percentage points rather than being more aggressive or more risky. Just play it smart.
I've noticed that baby boomers that lost money in 2008 that just recovered in 2015, by the way, went par, right? Recovered. And some of the philosophical issue is to double down and just even be more aggressive, right? But in taxes, we might be able to save. I mean, I had Peter Hibbard on here, and he said maybe some of the affluent up to 40 to 50% tax.
That's absolutely correct, yep.
That blows my mind. That blows my mind. Okay, so again, with QLAX, we're only delaying the taxes, but it could be, we're not getting around it, we're just delaying it. Okay, listen, don't forget, you can watch our next segment on tax-free monies in retirement, part 2 in our series on the tax-favored retirement strategies. And keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, or your financial advisor. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game.